Okay, Charlene, this is not confusing. It's confusing to you because you're in it. But the reason that you wrote in is that you want that outside perspective and you want to see the woods through the trees. So that's what we're going to do today. What's happening here is that he actually has been pretty honest with you about the limitations of the relationship. He is not in love with you, and the relationship provides him with friendship, emotional connection, and a physical connection. And he is not willing to have that threaten his marriage. And so he has set a boundary. What it sounds like is he is able to compartmentalize this relationship. And in fact, he needs to compartmentalize this relationship because what he's saying is you're going to remain in this category over here. And it's not going to cross into this other category over here, which I'm going to assume is reserved for his wife or would cross a boundary that in his mind has been predetermined to be not okay. And this is the weird thing about affairs. Obviously, you're transgressing an enormous boundary in your marriage, physically and emotionally. And yet, what I find in my work with individuals is that when you're in an affair, everyone kind of has their own rules for like how far is too far. And for some people, having it threaten their marriage would be a step too far, which obviously is a complete paradox. You're doing something that threatens your marriage constantly, right? For 4 years in your case. And yet, if you were to cross over into that space where you were to threaten the marriage, that's not going to work for him. And you know that. So, he's being pretty clear about the limitations, and it's up to you to believe him. It's up to you to take the relationship at face value and not hope for something more. So, what's interesting to me about this letter, Charlene, is that it's so much more focused on him. And I can tell that you're very emotionally invested in what he does or doesn't feel, what he is or isn't willing to give. And so what I want to ask you is where are you in this? And I understand that because of the pain, I have tried to set some boundaries or cut him off or block him. That's where you are in all of this. That's where you show up in this letter. But I want so much more. If you're going to break any of this cycle, you're going to need to turn the focus away from him, which is what is driving you absolutely mad. And you're going to have to begin to spend that energy focusing on yourself. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what is this relationship doing for me? There is a reason that I set a soft boundary, enough to block him, but he has ways to show up. He has ways to circumvent those boundaries. And I get it. Someone who's really tenacious is going to send that unsolicited gift to your mailbox or send you a gift card that you have to respond to. There's a million different hooks that affairs entail that invite someone to re-engage in contact because, well, now I have to thank you, or, now I feel bad if I don't respond. So obviously, I don't know the nature of this, but if you're ever really going to change the cycle, you are going to have to draw a black and white boundary. And what I understand, which is so common, you're not alone, is that to draw that boundary would be extraordinarily painful for you. And so you continue to leave the door slightly ajar. And this is what I see in affairs time and again. Perhaps the affair is discovered. Perhaps the affair, one affair partner, like in your case, is very unhappy with the arrangement. And someone, goes no contact. But they don't really go no contact because there are still open doors and there's still cracked windows and there's still ways that they keep themselves available for reconnection. And so the question I want you to ask yourself is, why are you keeping the door open for reconnection? What is this relationship doing for you, even though you're saying it's so painful and you are losing your mind? I want you to get crystal clear on that. So the second thing is that I want you to begin to focus squarely on yourself. This means you're asking yourself the question, why? Why am I being soft with my boundaries? Why am I chasing love when it doesn't love me back? Why am I seeking this outside of my marriage when I don't seem tied up in whether or not, my spouse loves me at home, or, there's a myriad other connections that I could be fostering in my life to help me come out of this space where maybe all of my emotional eggs are in one basket. You are going to have to get really honest with yourself. And it's not pretty. It's very confronting. Like, what stories am I telling myself to keep this guy available to me? What stories am I telling myself about myself that keep me in this loop? What is this doing for me, and why am I in this cycle? Because what would happen if I no longer was? What would I be left with? And that's a really important question, because oftentimes it's really that you don't want to be left with whatever it is that's going to be there when this whole circus has died down and left town. And so that requires you to stop putting the responsibility on him to be different or do something different, and start putting the responsibility squarely on yourself. So what this means is you communicate your boundaries very clearly, and then you stick to them. And if you do not hold those boundaries, you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, what is going on with me? And then the third thing is, take all of that time when you're trying to cut ties and do your own work. Again, get into that honest inventory. The Get Unstuck ebook that I wrote is chock full of the most important questions that anyone in an affair can ask themselves to help them get clearer about their underlying motives and why they're having trouble moving forward. I'm going to link that in the notes in the Substack article so that you can access that. And what's really illuminating when we start to do our own work is if we ask ourselves, what kind of childhood wounds is this relationship pattern bringing up for me? Or what kind of childhood wounds is my marriage bringing up for me? Or both. Sometimes the affair and the marriage don't actually end up being that different. So for that, I would recommend the book Getting the Love You Want. It's by Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt. It's a deep read, but it's going to really, really help you get underneath those childhood wounds that put you in this place of unconscious relationships. Your affair is an unconscious relationship because it's activating all these parts of the brain that are deeply, deeply addictive and wounding and harmful and prevent you from being conscious. I mean, truly, an affair by nature prevents you from being really consciously engaged in your own life and consciously aware in your relationship and in your relationship patterns. So I would recommend that book, and I would recommend that you begin to do work on yourself. Get the help of a therapist, begin to read self-help books, listen to different podcasts. There is so much out there to help you work on yourself. Because Charlene, I guarantee you, if you begin to take some of that energy that you spend mentally and emotionally hijacked by this man and this affair, and you begin to redirect that to yourself, you may very well find that you have a completely different direction for yourself. Time and again, when someone does their own work, what they discover is that what they've been engaged in isn't for them anymore, because they've evolved, they've grown, they've gained wisdom that helps them rise above the level that they were stuck at. I hope all of this helps.